Most people would be hesitant to put their aging parents in a depressing nursing home, but there is one man on a crusade to overhaul these often dreary places. CBS News correspondent Thalia Shuras has details in today's Young at Heart.
87-year-old Eloise Bork adores her puppy Mandarin. Dinner at daughter Lynette's is always something she looks forward to.
Friday night or Saturday night.
She's so busy, it's hard to believe she lives in a nursing home.
Does it feel like an institution here?
No, no.
Meadowlark Hills in Manhattan, Kansas is a new kind of nursing home, one of only a handful nationwide, where the goal is to create a sense of home.
And you don't feel hemmed in. Even if you're older, you don't want to feel like you can't be yourself and do fun things.
Meadowlark Hills is also a tribute to CEO Steve Shields' mother, a former dancer.
Mom was this really bright, dynamic person.
Marge Shields got Alzheimer's, and after a few weeks in a nursing home, her son didn't recognize her.
This woman who had really groomed herself and was artistic and dynamic and creative was vacant. She was tied in a chair, and she was hanging clear to the left. And she had this vacant look on her face.
This so upset Shields, he quit his job in the oil business, took over Meadowlark Hills, and moved his mother here. This was Meadowlark Hills then, hospital-like, with residents lined up in hallways, often left alone. It was only as his mother lay dying that Shields realized how much the institution needed changing.
I was suddenly hearing all these beepers and seeing all these flashers and all these people crossing each other in the hall and nobody talking to the people that lived there. And that was when I knew this has all got to go.
He replaced long hallways and a hospital-style nurses station with separate households.
So each house has its own living room, its own dining room, its own kitchen.
Each has a family of residents and a small team of staff.
The concept of a household is taken so seriously here, you have to ring the doorbell to go in, just like home.
In Ptasek House, Eloise Bork wakes up whenever she wants, and the homemaker, Sandra Reitmeyer, cooks her any breakfast she likes.
Fruit too. Thank you. You're welcome.
All the other places I've been, we've made just like one breakfast, and everybody was up.
This was my time for you?
Okay.
Just as she would if she were still living alone in her apartment, Eloise makes appointments.
The next one is a stretch you do crossing your leg over your knee.
For example, with her physiotherapist.
We're here all day long, so we can work around bingo and nails and hair and birthday parties, which we do a lot of.
Hello, good morning.
Eloise couldn't get in at the busy on-site hair salon on the day of our visit. But most important, says Nurse Colleen Brown, it's as if a family lives here.
We work together and laugh together. It's a lot of fun.
And Steve Shields says that the old way is no more efficient or cost-effective.
If we think hiring people and having them do specific functions and then line people up for dinner or for baths or for wake-ups is efficient, we're wrong.
You say the costs are no higher.
The costs are no higher. They're redistributed.
Shields is on a crusade to transform the country's 18,000 nursing homes so that someday all of them will feel more like home. For The Early Show, I'm Thalia Shuras in Manhattan, Kansas.
You know, I don't think we intended for that to be the way that we serve people who get old. I don't think we did it on purpose. That we would take the people who raised us, the people who fought our wars, the people who baked our birthday cakes, who put bandages on our knees, and who handed us the baton when they could no longer carry it, and hand it to us and say, here it is. Hope you do better than I. To end up in human file cabinets on the edge of every small town in America. 30 minutes that way, 30 minutes that way, 30 minutes that way, 30 minutes that way, from sea to shining sea, from Canada to Mexico. People, good people, who were called to serve elders, who wanted to heal, who want to minister to be present to people of age. We're hired and indoctrinated and taught instead protocols, schedules, routines. We're people who wanted to be loving to the people who raised us as they awakened in the morning. Instead, are limited to 15 minutes for them to help them awaken, get out of bed, be personally attended to, clothed, and taken to the breakfast table. There's something wrong. I wasn't awake. Do you know how long it took me? I thought when I left the oil business and got my mom out of that place where she was and found a place that I could run, and I felt like the son who had kind of ridden in on a white horse and saved her. And we moved her into a place where the floors were shiny, where there was no regulatory noncompliance for 12 straight years, where there was no smell, and where the director of nursing ran a tight ship. I walked by my own mother for 4 years out by the nurses' station with the whole group in the half moon like this. And I thought to myself, as I would put my hand on my mother's shoulder, who was 62 years old. And I thought that was old. I thought it was age and disease. And I got where I didn't want to be near her because she wasn't who I recognized. I still thought it was age and disease. Do you know what it is? People don't come in that way. What it is, the diagnosis for it, and then the antidote to it, is overcoming this siloed approach to the care model. It's not just in long-term care. It's not just in healthcare. It's everywhere. It's in banking. It's in retail. It's in corporate America. It's in our government. Is this phenomenon of simultaneous, disconnected activities that fit together like an ill-designed puzzle that mitigate the potential of what can be. When my mother, as it mentioned, when my mother was on her deathbed and she didn't have to do Alzheimer's, she had it for 17 years. And she literally just forgot to take that last breath. And in the last 5 days of her life, my father and I were in her room. I took a break from being the CEO and became a son. And we were there 5 straight days. And she completely did the act of dying. And the people that served her, who were my employees, who I knew by name, who I knew their families, I loved them all. I began to resent, and I began to dislike, and in times hate in a moment. Because each person was coming in, not doing anything comprehensive, passing each other. I'm the nurse, I'm the social worker, I'm the dietary aide, I'm the spiller, I'm the picker-upper. And it made me angry. And as she died, I had a moment where I realized I can't do this anymore. And we created a new model with a premise that you can get up when you want. These are kind of fundamental things that if we were talking about anybody else on earth, we would go, well, of course. But in this industry, it's guru thinking. If you want to be a guru, it's a good one to get in on. You can get up when you want to in the morning. You can eat what you want. You can dress in the clothes that you're in the mood to wear that day. You can have spontaneity. You can fall in love. You can go to town. Most importantly, you're in the driver's seat of your own life up through death. And that it is your fundamental right to have a home that is not in the public eye, that is your sanctuary, up through death. So we created this model, and it was an affront to our industry. It's the second most regulated industry, second to nuclear power. And as I began to diagnose, and as I found others who had similar stirrings, and we formed this thing called the Pioneer Network out of Rochester, New York, as we began to untangle it and diagnose, why is this? How can we overcome this and create this? it was, as the previous speaker talked about, is taking the same things that we have, the knife and the fork and the spoon, and creating something different out of these variables that we all know about and think we understand. But because we separate them, silos, spiller, picker upper, we diminish people to the point that they have no purpose, no reason to get up, no choice in what they wear, to the point where they suffer from complete, abject loss of self. Not because they're old and sick, but because of how we organize ourselves. And if we take the same principles of reshaping the variables and create something new where they do get up, where the physical environment is normal, where there's a front door with the doorbell and a living room, a dining room, a kitchen, and a patio, and a linen closet, and a bedroom hall that is not a walkway for passersby, but a privacy barrier, where families' relationships won't have to change and don't change. They continue because you haven't been put someplace, you've moved to a new address. We've been able over the last 15 years, and this special was done in 2006, in the first generation of households, which now have grown to be in over 3,000 different locations in Australia, in Ireland. We've spent a lot of time there, in nearly every state, flying under their own flag and logo. But I don't want to talk to you about that. I want to talk to you about what happens when we use integrated leadership principles, no matter what the pursuit is. In this case, taking something that's siloed and managed versus led and integrated and recreated, brought people back in every place from this to coming back. It's like a movie that I know no one will ever make. But in every location, in every one of the 3,000 locations, the slumpers, the vacant slumpers who have abjectly lost themselves, come back. I can write it in the form of a guarantee. What is it that makes that possible? And if that's true in a place where people are the most frail and the most captive, who cannot go home, what if these leadership principles were applied to any other setting? Whether it be a bank, whether it be a coffee shop, whether it be a hospital, whether it be whatever it is your passion is. So I want to visit just real quickly about what those are. And that is taking these various variables, the beliefs, establishing the beliefs. As simple as people aren't going to wake up when they're told in 15-minute increments. They're going to wake up when they want. People are not going to live in the public housing institution. They're going to have home. What are those beliefs? Articulate them in whatever purpose that you seek to find. And then make the leadership principles, resource-bearing around that. And begin to engage people into that vision through steering committee work or a guidance team that begins to spread this vision and purpose person by person until it becomes part of your aligned culture. And that you bring the physical aspects, whether they be on site or others, into complete harmony with whatever your purpose is. And that the financial model be integrated into that process so that each of those, what have before been separate concepts, become integrated simultaneously together versus separate. And within each of those is a whole other group of silos. Just within the operating model in the old nursing home, there's the nurse, the social worker, they all are in departmental silos. Over here, they all work together. They report in together to the team. The physical design. Architecture is also siloed. There's the architect, then they pass it over to civil, they pass it over to structural, they pass it over to landscape, they pass it over to interiors, and each reacts literally to the others. In this environment, it's all done together in an integrated fashion. Same with the financial outcomes. Instead of being driven by specific financial drivers that are our favorites, like no debt, or debt service coverage, or days cash on hand, the key is balanced financial ratios. The key to all of this is integrated balance. Integrated balance, integrated balance. And I've thought about you I've thought about you and your generation, and I've thought about what implication does this have for you, and what is your future going to bring to you, and what are you going to make of that? You know, as you leave the world of free time and you begin to wear the mantle, you accept the baton, and you'll get a whole series of those from now until you can no longer receive them. People will tell you as you enter into the inner state of life, teachers will teach you how to drive, how to put your hand on that steering wheel, how to stay between the lines. And yes, that's a good idea. But your job is also to remake the roads, maybe even reinvent what the roads are. Maybe they're not even a surface. But our kindest, most gentle areas of our character have to realize that our real job, while we do this is a given. If you have the privilege of being an adult, you're supposed to drive, you're supposed to make the roads, you're supposed to reshape what they are. But what is the measure of our character is the way in which we help the young onto the on-ramp and how we help the old into the rest area and into the blue highways. That's our measure. And don't let anyone tell you that it's not. And please don't go into adulthood thinking it's just about driving. We're each born in a time. There's generational callings. Our great-grandparents came, settled the West, built towns every 20 minutes in the span of a generation. Our grandparents introduced the age of industry and the machine, and they fought World War I, and they endured the Depression, only to send their children off to war. My father's call was to fight in World War II, and to come back and be part of a generation that built the greatest society since Rome. Our generation brought technology. Yours is going to bring integration. President Clinton said we are so integrated with knowledge that we're disintegrating. Your generational call, I think, is to bring that integration as you continue forward. And I wish, as I pass my baton to you, that you make the most of it. God bless you.